Against the deep blue sky, a colossal shadow soared, tearing through the air, as if to dominate the heavens that day. It threw its head back and let out a resounding roar. The clouds and wind seemed to fall silent, and time itself appeared to stand still, creating a fantastical, motionless moment as a dragon circled in the sky. The dragon's massive body coiled through the air, freer than anything I had ever seen. On the ground below, a young man was looking up, following its silhouette. It was because of that His clothes and face were smeared with blood and mud. His expression dazed a figure both small and resilient amidst the grandeur before him. The dragon gradually vanished into the clouds, but the young man named Aster remained motionless. A member of the great magical clan of Declan, he had decided to step down from his role as a troubleshooter. His hand clenched into a fist, each finger trembling with tension and resolve. That was the only reason. As dusk fell, the fading light painted everything in a hazy gray, and the space seemed to be swallowed by darkness. A crow cawed shrilly, the harsh echo grating on the ears. Mixed with it was the cold, sharp voice of a man, "Now you're the last one left." The sudden sound startled it, and with a frantic flutter of its wings, it shot up into the sky. The crows quickly blended into the night, becoming flickering black dots in the darkness. On the ground, faint light illuminated Aster's tense face. His hand tightened as he restrained the man, his eyes fixed on him with unshakable determination. The man was being choked, his throat straining with every pulse. With great difficulty, he managed to utter a complete sentence. "First, you concealed your true strength." Contrary to the man's agony, his expression was filled with defiance and satisfaction, his eyes as cold as blades, his lips curled in a slight sneer. "That's not the kind of power an ordinary troubleshooter possesses." From his belt, Aster pulled out a book, his fingers lightly tracing the cover as his low voice rumbled, "I'm the one asking the questions here." A strange magical symbol was drawn on the book. The dim light from the sky reflected off the sigil. He emphasized, "This is a grimoire, isn't it?" The man, squeezed tight and nearly breathless, broke into a cold sweat. "Yes," he said, his voice trembling. Then the man rasped out his breath, coming in broken gasps. "Did you really think we came all this way just to take down a single hound?" Aster retorted sarcastically. "But if it's for trash from the Declan clan like you, maybe the whole pack would show up." Not wanting to waste words on him, he got straight to the point. "So how do you use it?" The man shook his head for dear life, his voice hoarse and shaky. "I don't know." Aster's eyes darkened, the twilight casting shadows on his grim face. If that greedy Declan knew, he wouldn't have buried it in a dusty basement. The grimoire constantly radiated an irresistible allure, the light from its strange symbols flickering invitingly. He didn't even know how to use it yet. He was hunted to this extent, which just proved how valuable it was. Suddenly, the man spoke up, his voice trembling with urgency. "Hand over the grimoire." His expression contorted, sweat pouring down his face as he tried everything to save his life. "Then I'll ask the leader to spare you. He might even let you go back to being a troubleshooter." But of course these words couldn't sway him. He bluntly exposed the lie, his voice cutting in. "What authority do you have to say that?" Suddenly, the magic around the man's neck tightened, squeezing until he choked. "All right then, any last words?" The man thrashed violently, his voice a hoarse scream. "You bastard!" Hearing this, Aster, far from being angry, taunted him. "Finally accepted what you are, have you, commendable?" Unexpectedly, a figure approached, the sound of shoes clacking on the ground, carrying a hair-raising sense of danger. As if a current ran down his spine, Aster's eyes widened, his entire body tensing like a drawn bowstring. He turned his head in that direction, his heart skipping a beat. "This is real danger." A man radiating a powerful killing intent calmly walked forward. "You have good instincts." Indeed, just as the man said, Aster had already clearly sensed this abnormality. Anyone who carried such an aura of bloodlust. His cane tapped lightly on the ground, followed by his introduction, his voice calm yet full of pressure. "A pleasure. I am Farron von Declan." He wore a faint smile that still carried a deadly sense of danger. The patriarch of the Declan magic clan of the Eastern continent, the head of the Declan clan. Farron's gaze seemed to bore right into his soul, cold and sharp. "If you don't mind, I'd like that grimoire back. We can talk afterward." Aster couldn't react in time, perhaps petrified by the man's presence. "It's been over 10 years since I became a troubleshooter. I've given half my life to Declan, but this is the first time I've met the patriarch." He began to recall the Declan clan, the foremost magic family of the Eastern continent. Throughout the clan's entire existence, the patriarch was said to be the most powerful mage in their history. Aster stared intently into the eyes of the smiling man before him. What kind of person is he? He just snorted with disgust. What a pain! His breathing was steady, but his eyes were sharp, seemingly unyielding to the pressure. This move of his made Farron freeze a look of astonishment in his eyes, as if he were frozen for a few seconds. His expression was full of smugness as he tucked the grimoire into a spatial gate, the faint light glinting off its strange symbols. You think you can take someone else's spoils of war that easily, have you no shame? Suddenly, Farron's lips curled into a low chuckle that echoed through the space like a threatening wave. He threw his head back and laughed aloud as if he had heard a hilarious joke. Aster's smile froze his body, trembling unconsciously. I shouldn't have gone after that dragon. For the patriarch himself to appear, what terrible luck. In truth, his hand was now shaking like a leaf visible even to the naked eye. This magical aura is no joke. He's the most overwhelming mage I've ever seen. Then Farron's cane struck the ground hard. His voice was low, as if he were being magnanimous with Aster. It would be easier to just kill you and take back the grimoire, but fine, I'll be direct. A second later, his voice rang out, both a warning and an enticement. Return to the fold of Declan, hand over the grimoire, and I will overlook everything you have done. Aster said nothing, letting Farron continue with a dramatic wave of his hand. What do you say? Your talent is truly impressive. Watching you fight, I can't believe we didn't notice it sooner. His expression remained unchanged even as Farron insulted him. Just a filthy vagrant from the gray zone practicing those trashy techniques the troubleshooters use, and yet you possess this level of strength. At this, Aster's face showed a hint of weariness. With the Declan clan backing you, how high could you soar? His eyes drifted absently to the silhouette of a crow in the sky, tuning out the man's words. And how far could Declan reach with you as it soared? For a fleeting moment, the image of the crow became a dragon, as if a metaphor for something. Together, you will stand by my side and make Declan even greater. You will be recorded in the annals of history. In the end, the ultimate goal was still to reclaim the treasure. Return to Declan. Of course, you still have to return the grimoire. Waiting for the other to finish, Aster finally spoke. All right. Thinking he had truly agreed, Farron's expression softened considerably, his voice growing deeper. Good. Then let's start with... At that point, Aster suddenly cut him off, his voice stern yet powerful. But first I have one condition. Aster gave a self-satisfied smirk, the cunning in his heart clear in his eyes. Give me the position of patriarch, and then I'll consider it. Hearing him finish this outrageous proposal, although Farron maintained his expression of vein was already throbbing on his forehead, his facial muscles tensing as if to emphasize the pressure. A second later, he clenched his fist, the light glinting and flickering across the magic sigils. You were watching the battle, weren't you? The choked man's eyes rolled back with Aster's every word, and he let out a few agonized gasps. Then he stopped struggling, his head slumping to one side. Aster sneered provocatively, his voice cold. Can you count how many people have died for this thing? This scene made Farron lose his initial composure. His face quickly darkened. His voice hardened as he issued a warning. So this is how it's going to be. You could die, you know. He swallowed hard, a lump forming in his throat. He's right. But in the next moment, Aster's feet shot forward like a flash of light. He reacted instantly, leaping high to attack from above his speed, almost unbelievable. Damn right he is. Aster's magic shot out a brilliant blue light streaking through the air, but it was immediately blocked by his opponent, sending sparks flying. The sparks from his magic flashed, highlighting the defiant look on his face. You never know who's bigger until you measure up. Farron didn't flinch in the slightest. Very well. It seems I need to teach you your place. He raised his hand to cast a spell, and a magic circle with a red glow appeared. A second later, a giant sharp rock erupted from the ground, shooting straight toward Aster. Farron's eyes were as cold as ice as he gently raised his hand. Another magic circle appeared in front of him. The moment he saw it, Aster cursed inwardly, "This madman!" Dozens more stone pillars shot up, rushing toward him. Luckily, he dodged them all. This is the patriarch of Declan. Aster ran while trying to think of a countermeasure. There wasn't a single opening in his defense when suddenly Farron's voice rang out from behind, "Losing focus, are we?" Then he suddenly slammed into an invisible wall, unable to move forward or back. His expression was as cold as the Grim Reaper's. Didn't you say we'd have to measure to know some things are known without needing to be measured? Before Aster could even compose himself, a giant magic circle appeared right beside him. Every word from his opponent seemed to engrave itself into his mind before he was swallowed by the magical light, like the distance between you and me. A shocking explosion erupted with crimson flames flaring violently. Old Farron acted as if nothing had happened. I'm not killing you, just roughing you up a bit, so are you ready to talk now? The white smoke ahead was so thick you probably couldn't see your 5 fingers if you held them up. Astor's voice was a bit hoarse, seemingly weak. And what if I bow my head now? What if I agree to return to Declan's shadow? The old man chuckled softly. You think I would believe you? The smoke cleared, revealing his still intact body thanks to his protagonist's aura. Astor's face was still bleeding. He reached his hand forward, a defiant smirk on his lips. You think I would believe you? He shouted, a giant magic circle appearing behind him. I'm sick and tired of eating dog food, you hear me? A powerful shockwave shot forward, aimed straight at his opponent. Astor's expression was somewhat crazed, unhinged. Who would want to go back to being a dog just because of a shiny leash and a big house doesn't mean it's not a kennel? But contrary to expectations, Farron just calmly tapped his staff on the ground. How pathetic. Unfortunately, when the shockwave dissipated, his opponent was still perfectly safe behind a shield. Suddenly, a giant magic circle appeared on the ground, enveloping them both. He tilted his head back, his expression unreadable. Let me show you. Astor followed his gaze what overwhelming power looks like. The sight before him turned him to stone. You bastard. A colossal bolt of lightning tore through the sky, accompanied by an earth-shattering roar. This was the opening scene of the story. Thinking back now, that was the reason. Astor's lifeless eyes gazed at the sky. That day when I looked up at the sky, the image of that mythical creature flashed through his mind again. The dragon that flew overhead looked so free. Recalling the pain of that fatal blow, he silently gritted his teeth. And then the reason I looked up that day. Farron walked over to Astor, who was lying motionless in a pool of his own blood. Impressive. I thought you were dead, yet you're still holding on. So have you felt the difference in our power yet? He leaned against a rock, his face covered in red blood, his expression dazed. After a moment, he spoke with difficulty. You are too strong. His opponent replied coldly. Do you want to finish what was left unfinished? Are you ready to talk now? Astor was breathless. So you want me to go back to being a cleaner? Hearing this, Farron stroked his chin, pretending to ponder. I never said that. I'm not asking you to be a cleaner. The next sentence made the dazed man's eyes widen. I want you to be the patriarch of the Bongshin clan, the patriarch of Bongshin. For generations, among countless magical families, only one lineage has stood above all others. The Declan lineage, the most powerful magical family on the eastern continent, strong enough to challenge the throne. And they want us to swear fealty as a vassal family. Astor's face was filled with despair as he silently took out the grimoire. That was your real goal from the beginning, wasn't it? Farron's lips curled into an arrogant smirk. You're still underestimating your own worth. I want you and that grimoire. The only sound in the space was the cold whistling of the wind, yet it was still suffocatingly hard to breathe. Seeing him extend his hand, his opponent was pleased. Good. You've made the right choice. This final victory made Farron laugh out loud. All your sins are hereby forgiven. But a second later, he had to swallow his words before they were even finished. Now only glory awaits by Declan's side because the book was engulfed in strange purple flames. His expression froze, filled with deadly intent. What are you doing? Astor smirked triumphantly. What do you think? You said I could give it to you as long as I didn't mind it being burned to ashes, right? Veins popped on Farron's forehead, his eyes vicious. You will never have an easy death. But he was cut off by the boy. Shut up and listen. I never did this for money. What money does a cleaner have, so why did I keep this? Because it is about money. The next sentence surprised Farron even more. Have you ever heard of the cleaner who was devoured by the young master of the Declan house? He uttered 4 words. Forbidden magic. Correct. That bastard devoured my comrade alive and Declan covered it all up. After hearing this, his opponent became even more suspicious. So this was all for revenge? Astor scoffed coldly. Why would I do that? I know exactly how cheap a cleaner's life is. So did my comrades. His eyes looked up at the sky. At this point, he felt a strange sense of peace in his heart. Just wanted to make sure they got what they wished for. Then Astor's lips curled into a provocative smirk again. But that requires a lot of money and more. It seemed he had no regrets left. I finally decided to retire. There's no way I'm going back to that kennel again. Farron turned away in displeasure. Consider those your last words. Then he snapped his fingers, the sound echoing in the silence like a spark to gunpowder. A surging blue flame rushed forward, engulfing Astor. This is Declan's precious azure flame, the flame that never dies! His eyes, sharp as knives, glanced at his opponent one last time. Burn in it and regret your choice down to your very marrow. He widened his bloodshot eyes. Regret, screw that. Aster watched Farron's disappearing figure silently letting everything go. If the only choice left is to be Declan's dog, I'd rather go back to the gray zone. And if I can't go back, then dying isn't so bad either. At this thought, he couldn't help but laugh out loud, but it was a tragic laugh. As if he had lost his mind, Aster threw his head back and laughed maniacally. How long has it been since I've felt this free? It's a shame I can't escape with my life. Despair was already evident in his eyes, but a smile remained on his lips. It's a shame I can't escape with my life, but I have no regrets. If I were to be born again, I would find freedom and get my revenge properly. In his heart, he uttered his final last words, all rivers flow to the sea. And yet the only thing that disappeared was his clothing. Aster himself was completely unharmed. This left him utterly stunned. What the hell? For a moment, he thought old Farron was just testing him, but that feeling quickly vanished. Aster looked around in confusion. The air was so heavy it was hard to breathe. Everything stopped. Suddenly, he noticed the book in his hand. It hadn't burned. The grimoire. The next second, the grimoire slowly floated up the blue flames, swirling around it as if to devour all the air in the vicinity. A dazzling golden magic circle appeared on Aster's left chest. He was speechless. What the hell? The circle grew brighter and brighter, emitting an irresistible pressure that made Aster feel like his heart was being squeezed. What the hell is happening? When Aster opened his eyes, the scenery had suddenly changed. A gold coin fell into the tin box in his hand. It was as if he had returned to the past, groveling on the ground to beg. What is this? I was clearly being burned alive. A series of questions flashed through Aster's mind. Something's not right. The innocent face of a child curiously looking around. Where is this? After looking around for a while, Aster looked at the gold coins in the box again. It's like I've gone back to the past. This place is so familiar. It was then that he suddenly remembered, that's right. I remember now. This was where Aster had spent his entire childhood. This place is the gray zone. The place where I struggled to survive day by day before becoming a cleaner. Aster doubtfully looked over his body. No way, did I really travel back in time? The sun was scorching hot, its rays piercing through the clouds to illuminate the area. Under that harsh sunlight, the old dilapidated houses of the common folk appeared clearly stained with a look of poverty. Aster looked at his reflection in the sewage water, still unable to accept reality. What in the world happened? The inexperienced, childish face that appeared before his eyes only made him more certain. This is definitely me, but it's me as a child. Aster's expression soured slightly as he looked down at the magic circle on his left chest. If there's one thing that bothers me, it's this mark. I went back to the past, but this thing came back with me. Then Aster sat dazedly on a patch of grass. I don't know how, but the grimoire definitely did something. Even though the grimoire isn't here, does it really have this kind of power? But thinking back on how the lazy patriarch of the Declan house personally showed up, it shows just how important that grimoire is. And because it's so important, almost no one knows anything about it. These thoughts made him want to turn to stone. Whatever. In any case, this seems to be a good thing. The foul stench pulled Aster back to reality. It was too real to be a dream, so I refused to believe it was. The nauseating reek of sewage from Seal's lecture hall, I was certain I was still alive. Aster suddenly raised his hand for no apparent reason, and he hadn't just survived. Then he clenched his fist with determination. It was a morning full of life and burning with spirit, the kind of situation where anything you did could succeed. A sudden stillness settled in his heart. So then what is success? Aster's eyes grew distant. I once had a dream. He recalled his past life. Yes, I had a dream. It was my comrade's dream as well, the reason I decided to retire. Suddenly, the comrade beside him spoke up. Number one, I mean Aster. He began to confide. We were born as vagrants in the gray zone. We had nothing, no good food, no nice clothes, no education. Out of all those, what do you think hurt the most? The sun was setting, casting their long shadows across the ground. Not having food? If it was just hunger, we wouldn't have stooped this low. You just have to endure it when you can't eat. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking back on that time. But what do you think dragged our lives down to the bottom of this sewer? Aster nonchalantly picked his nose. But I think it's fine. His indifference annoyed his comrade. The reason our lives hit rock bottom. I said I'm fine with it. His expression turned menacing as if he was about to gut someone. Fine, I'll say it. Just look at that glare. His gaze drifted toward the twilight. It was not being able to get an education that was the most bitter thing of all. The more he spoke, the more resentful he became. If we had been properly educated, we wouldn't have had to live like this, getting trampled on by those damn nobles. So if I ever retire someday, The comrade unconsciously curled his lips into a smile. Then I want to. Aster in this life finished his sentence. Build a library. A place with no barriers, no chains. A place where anyone, regardless of wealth status or gender, could read freely. Of course, his ambition was much grander than that. But I want to take it one step further. Aster's dream was to build a tower. For no reason at all, I just like tall things. It can be anywhere with any books. But there is one book that must absolutely be there. Aster's expression twisted wickedly. I'll put Declan's top-secret manual right in the lobby on the first floor, so that even the vagrants from the gray zone, the bastards of nobles, or the sons of butchers can pick one up. He cackled as he spoke. The cover will be stamped with the Declan crest, and inside will be the secret arts they hold more precious than life itself. The more Aster thought about it, the more ecstatic he felt. Just imagining it makes me drool. It was a great fantasy, but reality wouldn't permit it. The problem was how to get my hands on that book. But he smugly brushed the thought away. That's a problem for future me. In any case, if I spread the Declan manual everywhere, I bet they'll just love it to death. While he was lost in thought, a powerful force struck Aster's face along with an incredibly annoying voice. There he is. Taken completely by surprise, Aster fell to the ground while the one called Spotty unleashed a torrent of curses. You bastard, I've been looking for you. Still not satisfied, the kid landed a few more kicks. I saved a spot for you and you were hiding here, you want to die. With no strength to resist, Aster could only cover his head and take the beating. Who is this guy in ambush? But I've survived countless fights. Barring aerial combat, I'm a veteran cleaner. Feeling his pride being trampled, he reached out and grabbed his opponent's leg firmly. Seeing this, the kid fumed. You dare block my kick? Aster's voice was grave. You hit me 7 times. His expression was as dark as a demon's. Then you can have 70 blows back. Spotty, terrified by this aura, immediately retreated. Aster then swung his fist toward the kid, but his wrist let out a crack. Startled, he twisted his sore wrist. What is this? It's glowing. Right after another fist slammed into his face. You bastard, you dare to hit me, your big bro? And so Aster was beaten again. A little punk like you dares to lay a hand on me. Are you insane? He could only clutch his head, crying without a sound. It hurt. It hurt enough to make me cry, but what hurt more than the body was the heart. Spotty lifted his leg to kick him, but tripped on a stone as he brought it down. This unexpectedly caused the kid to lose his balance, his arms and legs flailing. And just like that, he fell right into the dirty water. Now's my chance. Spotty coughed and sputtered, having accidentally swallowed some of the filthy water. You little brat! The kid cursed his lungs out as he watched the quick-witted Aster take this chance to bolt. Where do you think you're going? This isn't running away. His eyes glared back at his opponent. I'll remember your face. This is a tactical withdrawal. Aster silently swore revenge. These hits you landed on me, I'll wear them like medals on my chest. I'm a veteran cleaner, someone who doesn't know how to quit. Elsewhere, in a small, dark alley wedged precariously between 2 houses. He sat down on the ground, clutching his wrist and wincing constantly. Damn it, this is bad. His wrist was swollen and throbbing. I'm not some average paper pusher, yet I dislocated my wrist after just a few punches. This body is ridiculously weak. To make matters worse, Aster's empty stomach started to growl. Forget the tower. I need to get this body in shape first. Suddenly, a soft yet clear childish voice came from above. Are you hungry? Lifting his eyes, Aster saw a boy of about the same age. He was slender but dressed in ornate clothes that shimmered with intricate patterns. His bright eyes shone with curiosity. Just one look was enough to guess this kid came from a rich family. Aster gave a nonchalant smirk, his voice low. Do you know me? The boy shook his head, his gaze innocent but watchful, seemingly studying every detail about Aster. No. He silently sized up the other boy, a faint smile playing on his lips. I figured as much. The boy's harmless appearance made Aster click his tongue. You look pathetic, but your clothes are expensive. Probably some noble brat kicked out of his family during a power struggle. In other words, a beautiful and dangerous walking time bomb. Whenever Aster opened his mouth, the boy would interject his tone playful yet decisive. Hey, I'm Damien. By the way, my mother is Bianca. Why do I suddenly feel like I'm hearing things I shouldn't? His expression filled with disgust. Is there something wrong with your head? Damien suddenly said with a blank face. I don't have a mother. Why would he say something to make me feel guilty? My bad. He didn't want to just compete. He wanted to dominate. Well, I don't have a father, so I win. Now let's say our goodbyes here, understand? Better not to get involved with a bomb like him. I should leave before things get messy. But he just stood in place staring at Aster while sucking on his thumb. His voice was testy. Aren't you leaving? I'll go with you. Aster ground his teeth. Should I just smack him? Whatever. Get out of my way. Unexpectedly, Damien held out his hand. Hey, doesn't that hurt? A magic circle appeared in his hand. Let me heal it for you. Stunned, he asked unconsciously, This is... A sweet smile bloomed on the other boy's face. Magic. However, Aster keenly sensed something was off. No, this isn't just simple healing magic. Thanks to the experience from his previous life, he knew what it was. Healing light. A secret art of the Blandor family, the one that was crushed by Declan. He swallowed involuntarily. My instincts were telling me that the dirty, dangerous stuff a cleaner like me would normally avoid has now stuck to me for good. The kid, oblivious to his grim expression, just kept smiling innocently. There was one more thing that bothered Aster. But why, as a child of the Blandor house in the gray zone, at this point in time, the Blandors should still be thriving? He unconsciously muttered the boy's name, Damien. Hearing the person before him call his name, the boy's movements paused for a moment. Just then, Damien lifted his head, revealing his heterochromatic eyes. Did you call me? Aster's expression instantly became one of horror. Shit. A horrifying chill ran down his spine. I remember now, the one from the Blandor bloodline with bizarre eyes. People called Damien the monster of the Blandor family. Countless people had died by his hand. The mad butcher who wouldn't die no matter how many times you killed him. But the Damien of the present was this ant. He was no different from an idiot. 1, 2... Are you kidding me? Aster recalled his previous life. Back when I was a cleaner before my regression, I was dispatched to the Blandor estate under orders from the Declan house. He grumbled in discontent as he walked. Damn it, if this is the Blandor's business, they should handle it themselves. Why call us in? Well, it's not like we can understand the schemes of the upper crust anyway. Another comrade chimed in. I heard there's a monster in the soft territory. The rumor is that dozens of people have died. His brows knitted together. A monster, you mean like an ogre? But no, it was something beyond anything he could have imagined. And then I saw him. The sight stunned all three of them. It wasn't an ogre. Nor was it any kind of monster, but a human tearing another person apart with their bare hands. That person's crazed smile was truly haunting, simultaneously fighting and relentlessly casting Soft's exclusive healing magic, laughing while killing pure madness the monster of Blandor. People called him the Mad Butcher, the one who wouldn't die even when killed. The monster of the Blandor family, Damien von Blandor. Who would have thought that in the past, Damien could be this naive? He's counting ants 1, 2, seriously. The more Aster thought about it, the less he understood why a direct descendant of the Blandor house, the only son of the family head, would be living in such a rundown place. Suddenly, he shot to his feet, food which startled Aster. What? But Damien just smiled innocently. Let's eat. My mom said you have to eat well to be healthy. You get sick from not eating. He agreed, but it wasn't that simple. He's right. His words hit hard, even without a fist. Aster dusted off his pants and stood up. Do you have any money? Suddenly, he held out a sparkling bag of gold coins. This. Aster moved closer and placed a hand on his shoulder, Damien. His eyes sparkled. A wise man knows an opportunity when he sees one. Let's be friends. Why so suddenly? Aster continued to ramble while Damien clutched the money bag defensively. I said we're friends, got it, and friends have to share what they have with each other. At this, both their eyes lit up as if they were friends from a past life. Let's go, my friend. Time to eat, friend. The two chatted as they walked. So what do you have? Me, I have a friend now. That sounds cool. Night fell and a bright, clear moon hung in the sky, its gentle silver light blanketing everything. Aster let out a satisfied yawn, his whole body relaxing after a long day. He patted his full belly. That meal was delicious. After washing my face, I feel so much more refreshed. Seeing Damien still looking dazed, he asked, What are you doing? I didn't know there was a house above the place we just ate. He explained innocently, I usually just sleep on the streets. I'm just now realizing how convenient a house is. Aster was speechless. I see. As he was climbing into bed, he seemed to remember something. Oh, that's right. Damien's expression turned serious as if he were in a competition. I don't have a father either. Aster opened his mouth to snap at his new friend, but stopped. No, you do. He argued back stubbornly. No, I don't. Don't turn this into a misery competition. He was speechless. What about you? You have a mother, right? Yet the clueless Damien looked around, searching. Where she's not here. He face-palmed helplessly. If she's not here, she must not exist. That's a pretty extreme way of thinking. Putting that aside, Aster probed further. All right, let me assess the situation. How long have you been here alone? Damien held up his fingers to count. Since I ran away from my family, I've slept 10 times. His eyebrows furrowed slightly. Ran away? Are you being chased? Does sleeping 10 times mean it's been 10 days? But as expected, Damien was still Damien. I also take a lot of naps. He beamed again, showing off his achievement. Twice a day even. Of course, I mean short naps. In total, I've slept 10 times. Seemingly used to it, Aster didn't bother arguing. So it's been about 3 or 4 days. Damien flopped onto the bed. But I haven't gotten any real sleep since I arrived. The ground is too hard. He was too tired to say anything else. But then again, Damien was right. It's impossible to sleep on the hard ground. His eyes drifted to the soft pillow at the head of the bed. Aster lunged forward, burying his face in the pillow and groaning, "He's been crazy from the very start." A plan was already forming in his mind. In any case, while this kid is stuck in the Gray District, I can act as his temporary guardian. And it wouldn't hurt to use this opportunity to build a connection with the Blandor family. He glanced to the side where Damien was complaining about the bed. "This is so uncomfortable. Later, when I confront Declan, this will be useful." Besides, powerful families tend to have many rare books. The image of Spotty screaming his head off flashed through his mind. Of course I need to deal with something else first. The 57 grudges carved into my heart. Suddenly, Aster sat up. "Damien, I'm going to lie down. Don't disturb me. If you do, you'll be in big trouble." He sat up excitedly. "Are you practicing a breathing technique?" Aster hummed evasively. "That's right. When I'm done, you can do it too. I'll wait." "Okay, got it." His eyelids closed, but he wasn't asleep. In my previous life, I built my magical foundation with the basic spells issued to scavengers, but its limitations were all too clear. Aster recalled breaking into places to steal. That's why I secretly infiltrated numerous noble families to steal their magic. He'd nearly died countless times doing so. The spells I learned that way included a knight's body enhancement technique. Not to mention other useful arts like spirit summoning alchemy and a host of other miscellaneous techniques. That person's image appeared in his mind, but right before I died, the patriarch of the Declan magic family appeared and utterly defeated me. I encountered a truly destructive power, and because of that, suddenly Aster's eyes flew open. "This time I will definitely..." His lips moved without a sound. "The first magic I must learn is the Declan family's primordial secret technique. The root of all Declan sorcery, it can accept all magical attributes." This time he sank into a truly satisfying sleep. I memorized it for research purposes before, but now I have the chance to actually use it. Suddenly, the magic circle on his chest ignited with his thoughts. The breathing technique. The searing heat, as if he were being burned alive, almost made him scream. "So hot, it feels like lava is coursing through me. Damn it, what is this?" Aster's body tensed. "Focus. I have to make it work." Suddenly, he noticed something. A strange vapor rose from his hands. "Impurities, why do I have these?" With his vast experience, Aster immediately realized this was a high-level sorcery passed down only to the direct bloodline in noble families. The way this sorcery works is that it forces mana to pass through. The mana and impurities spontaneously combust, incinerating all impurities within the mana circuits. Its name is mana baptism. Aster's body convulsed, his back drenched in sweat. He shot up, gasping for air. "How long has it been?" Luckily, Damien hadn't been woken up. He was still sound asleep. He looked at his sweaty palms. "No more importantly, there are no impurities left in my circuits. The mana has been purified. Its purity is even higher than in my past life, perhaps even more so." He looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "Even so, the gap between me and the head of Declan is still too vast. Defeating him, even if I were reborn 100 times, might still be impossible." His hand clenched unconsciously. But one thing is certain. A confident smile spread across his lips. "My chances have increased. I am a scavenger, the kind of person who never gives up even if there's only a 0.01% chance of hope." The next morning, Damien's voice could be heard from several blocks away. "This is amazing." He gleefully looked at his hair. "My hair turned brown." It turned out Aster had disguised his friend. Good, his conspicuous platinum blonde hair is covered. After a change of clothes, the Blandor family won't recognize him. He got him a set of commoner's clothes. "Now just one last thing." Damien looked completely different. "So what's next, my good friend?" As they were preparing to leave, Aster suddenly turned to look at his friend. A sly smile appeared on his lips. Things were definitely not going to be that simple. 3 shocking words were uttered, causing a commotion. Elsewhere, Spotty was stretching, yawning so hard that tears welled up in his eyes. The boy enjoyed the refreshing morning air. "I slept so well. The weather's great today, too." Suddenly, the boy froze at the sight before him. Before him stood Aster and some unfamiliar kid. That kid. Spotty walked closer and sneered. "Where'd you disappear to, finally showing your face? And what's with your appearance? Did you take a bath in a sewer pipe? Who's this kid? He looks rich. The moment the words left his mouth, he was struck by a heavy blow right in the stomach. Caught by the surprise attack, Spotty collapsed in pain. Looks like I came to the right place since I remember you so clearly. Aster's expression was vicious. First 123 blows. You're going to get every last one. Unwilling to accept this, the boy immediately called out to his cronies. What, Spotty, what's going on? A moment later, Spotty returned with a large group. An intruder. Someone recognized him. Wait, isn't that the runt? A sinister smirk played on Aster's lips. All familiar faces? How terrifying. And so the two of them moved forward. I wonder how far I'll get today. From behind, a naive Damien asked, What game are we playing, my good friend? As an aggressive goon charged forward, Aster immediately landed a stinging punch to his face, adding a devastating kick to the stomach that sent another one flying. The more he fought, the more fired up he became, easily knocking out anyone who rushed in. Aster took on 4 of them at once, not missing a single blow while Damien stood to the side watching in awe. He observed Aster's techniques and exclaimed, he concentrates his mana, clenches his fist, and then attacks relentlessly. Witnessing such powerful attacks, Damien cheered in great admiration. Incredible! Hearing himself being cheered on, Aster turned to say smugly, while still dishing out a beating, Damien, that's what you call being top tier. At this, Damien's eyes sparkled as if he'd met his idol, and he praised him profusely, the absolute best. Suddenly, he was surprised to see Spotty stumbling towards him completely battered. So the kind-hearted Damien happily sat down to treat the boy. Don't worry, I'll heal you. But just as he'd recovered a bit and was opening his mouth to say thank you, a hand appeared from nowhere and yanked Spotty up by the collar. Aster closed in on the boy like a phantom, a sinister smile on his face. How many hits was that, I wonder? Followed by a terrible scream. Before long, dusk fell. On the deserted street, the kids were lying on the ground, beaten black and blue, while Aster was still as strong as an ox. Drenched in sweat, he took off his shirt, revealing his rippling muscles. He forcefully brought a wooden stick down on Spotty's rear. The boy, supporting himself on the ground with his hands, could only bite his lip and endure it. After a moment, Aster stopped and asked, How many times have you been hit? Spotty, clutching his red and swollen behind, answered awkwardly, I forgot. Suddenly, Damien ran up cheerfully from behind. Hey, friend, is it my turn now? He revealed his intention. Time to heal the hand. Upon hearing this, Spotty's face fell as he screamed internally, Stop! However, Aster still advanced, cracking his knuckles and smirking. Listen up, you belong to the box-shoulder generation, got it. Meanwhile, Damien raised his hand in excitement, chanting, Heal the hand, heal the hand. The other kid protested helplessly, Stop it, you demon, I can only count to 2. The two of them continued to beat up the kids until late at night when the moon was high in the sky. After a very satisfying session of revenge, Aster looked pleased. Thanks for today, I really mean it. Below him, about a dozen kids stood perfectly still listening. He smiled and commented, Your mana distribution has improved. I'm proud. Damien clapped his hands excitedly. All done, let's play again tomorrow. At the same time, Aster felt a sense of pride himself. I'm also proud of landing over 100 hits on each of them for a total of over 1,000 blows. Even for me, a seasoned cleaner aside from mountain battles and aerial combat, this was a new kind of challenge. Suddenly, someone beside him spoke hesitantly, cutting off his train of thought. It was a pathetic-looking Spotty who approached meekly and asked, Can I go now? I think that's enough. Aster's anger had cooled, so he agreed at once. All right, you can go. But the boy looked flustered and broke into a sweat, stammering, Actually, this is my house. Hearing this, Aster's voice turned grim. Are you telling us to get lost? A second later, his expression shifted and he hissed angrily, How awkward. Fearing Aster would fly into a rage again, Spotty frantically relented. That's not it, we'll leave immediately. Watching them scramble to their feet and run away, he mumbled to himself, This isn't about holding a grudge. Then he sighed again, so awkward. But he suddenly spun around as if sensing something. While Damien was still casually waving goodbye to the kids, Aster grew pensive and wary. There's someone, he continued, approaching. He could sense a powerful individual rushing toward them. Aware of the danger, Aster scanned his surroundings and remarked, Fast but stealthy. It's a characteristic presence like a cleaner. Abruptly, Aster glanced to the side as it dawned on him, it must be a pursuer. He looked at Damien and thought to himself, I was so careful, but they still managed to track us. I can't believe House Blandor was the first to find us. Next, Aster raised a hand in concern. With this much mana, even casting one spell is tough and close combat is even harder. This is bad. But a moment later, his expression grew serious. His eyes sharpened as he thought, but then again, who am I? Aster's hands were in a ready stance, prepared for battle as he mentally encouraged himself. Even back when I was a cleaner, I never had mana to spare. Not even one time. A situation like this, I've faced it hundreds of times. It's nothing new. Putting thought into action, he raised 2 fingers to cast a spell, his brain calculating how to deal with the threat. Gather the mana, compress it, and then compress it again. He tensed as he felt the flow of mana in his hand and was satisfied. This much will be enough. Next, Aster glared toward the direction where the stranger was about to appear. He tossed his shirt into the air, pouring all his energy into erecting a magic circle, then got into an attack stance, thinking, this is my only chance. At that same moment, an old man was rushing towards them at incredible speed. But unexpectedly, he didn't attack and instead fell to his knees on the ground. This left Aster completely dumbfounded. The old man slid across the ground in a kneeling position and wailed loudly, "Good heavens, young master!" Seeing his butler coming for him, Damien's mouth fell open in shock. "Alfredo!" He clung to Damien's arm, weeping pitifully. "Do you know how long I've been searching for you? Where have you been? What have you been doing? This poor butler was so worried about you, young master, that I lost both sleep and appetite." His display left both Damien and Aster astonished. Damien, however, was not the least bit moved and pushed Alfredo's face away, yelling, "Let go of me! I'm not going back!" But the butler clung on desperately. "Oh, dear heavens, young master, you might as well kill me instead." The 2 of them continued to struggle, causing a huge commotion. Alfredo lamented, "Oh, my running away from home, why would you do such a thing, sire?" To Aster, the whole scene was incredibly bizarre. After a moment, the butler managed to grab Damien and tuck him under his arm, even as the boy sulked visibly. The butler then spoke politely, "Please forgive the commotion in front of our esteemed guest." He then bowed his head in introduction. "I am Alfredo, butler to the House of Blandor." Aster also gave his name. "Yes, I'm Aster." Instantly, the man smiled and extended an invitation. "It appears young Master Damien has taken a great liking to you. If you wouldn't mind, would you care to accompany us to the family estate?" Faced with the offer, he pursed his lips in thought. "Go to the Blandor estate." Looking at Alfredo's friendly expression, Aster mused. The fundamental rule of prestigious houses is to avoid what is filthy and to steer clear of what is overly noble. I can't guess what on earth they're planning. Suddenly, he smiled as if he'd made up his mind. "But that's fine, since I intended to approach House Blandor from the start anyway." The image of a magnificent castle appeared in his mind, and Aster rejoiced internally. Fortunately, the Blandor territory lies right on the way to the city. Over there is Xenion Academy, considered the jewel of Eastern education, and its library is renowned as the finest in the East. I intend to build the best library, so it's not a bad idea to stop by and have a look. After careful consideration, he nodded in agreement. "Very well, I understand. Thank you for your assistance." As he carried the young master away, Alfredo called back, "Then I shall go and prepare a carriage. Please wait for a moment." While waiting, Aster picked his shirt up from the ground and fell back into thought. "I've deviated a little from my path to build a library, but when a good opportunity presents itself, you just have to take it." He put his shirt on, full of excited anticipation. "All right, now let's see if the food at the Blandor estate is anything decent." The night grew deeper with a perfectly round moon illuminating the dark sky. After some travel, the carriage finally stopped before a magnificent mansion. Alfredo announced, "We have arrived. This is the Blandor family residence." Aster slowly stepped down from the carriage. He looked up, his expression not entirely pleased. "My first time visiting here in an official capacity." Before him stood a magnificent mansion with 2 rows of servants lined up in welcome, the residence of House Blandor. Reaching the entrance, Alfredo said gently, "It is quite late, so please make yourself comfortable and rest. Lancy, I'm counting on you." The maid beside him replied curtly, "Understood." She didn't seem as polite as the butler, glaring at Damien as she said, "Please follow me, young Master Damien." Her attitude made him a little nervous, and he called out awkwardly, "Lancy." It appeared that after being caught running away, Damien was receiving his due punishment from the maid, as his screams echoed from the mansion, "I've learned my lesson, Lancy!" In the quiet of the night at the Blandor residence, Alfredo walked silently down a corridor. He stopped before a room and raised his hand to knock on the door. A voice from within commanded, "Come in." Alfredo complied, opening the door and entering. Inside the luxurious room, a woman inquired. Damien Alfredo bowed respectfully and reported, "He was in the black and white zone number 7. I have just brought him home." Upon hearing this, the woman said nothing, and the atmosphere became terrifyingly silent. But a moment later, the lady erupted in fury, slamming her magic down on the table. Perhaps because he was used to it, Alfredo's expression remained calm. The woman extended her hand, still crackling with mana, and asked in astonishment, "The black and white zone number 7, you say?" This was Damien's mother, Gamo. The lady glared angrily and yelled, "Is Damien all right? Is he injured? If so much as one hair on my son's head is out of place." Facing her wrath, Alfredo's expression remained unchanged. He calmly said, "My lady, please compose yourself and listen to my report." After hearing the whole story, Gamo's anger subsided and she sat down on the chair, so that's how it is. The lady calmed herself, withdrew her magical power into her hand, and exclaimed, "What a relief." Alfredo, standing beside her, also sighed. "That's right, it is a relief," he was rejoicing internally, good for my lady and also good for whoever might have crossed the young master. He looked at the dignified and beautiful lady before him, but in his mind he uneasily pictured a frantic Gamo, the wrath of the woman once called the Blood Witch, who could possibly stop it. But then Alfredo felt a sense of empathy. If it involved my son, I too would find it hard to remain calm. After a tense moment, Gamo finally smiled in satisfaction. "I suppose this outcome is still fortunate. In any case, you have worked hard." Though acknowledged by his lady, Alfredo simply bowed his head humbly. "It was nothing. It is my duty then," he stammered. "It's just that." Then he continued, "There is one slightly unusual matter." Gamo glanced over unusual. Next, the butler reported the issue he was suspicious of. "I mean about the friend the young master has made this time," the lady inquired. "That would be Aster, right? Is there something wrong with that friend?" Suddenly, Alfredo's eyes narrowed menacingly. As he recounted, he detected my presence. Even before I appeared, he was ready to counterattack. He recalled the moment he was about to lunge, and when we faced each other, the thing in that brat's hand was... Thinking of the object in Aster's hand, Alfredo exclaimed, "A mana bullet." This made Gamo fall into deep thought, undeniably. That is an incredible talent, a child with such ability, and he comes from the gray zone. It seemed Alfredo had a plan in mind. He opened his mouth to speak. "That is precisely why, my lady." His face was full of cunning, his eyes sharp as he stated his intention directly. "I venture to make a request." The scene shifts to the next morning at the mansion. Alfredo called out loudly, "Hey!" Suddenly, he appeared in a ray of shining light, then made an enticing offer. "Become my successor." Alfredo's attitude and words left Aster stunned, his expression darkening. In contrast, he was inwardly smug, his face as joyful as if at a festival. "You're surprised, aren't you? But there's no way that kid would refuse," Alfredo flattered himself. "A butler of a prestigious family like myself has personally made the offer, a life-changing opportunity for a stray child, glory, fortune, fame." However, Aster's answer was beyond his expectations, plunging him into an abyss. No. That decisiveness left Alfredo dumbfounded. What? Faced with the boy's indifferent attitude, he was utterly aghast. "What did you just say, brat? Did I mishear you?" Being suddenly invited to be the successor butler made Aster curse under his breath. Damn it. Alfredo heard it and froze. His face still frozen stiff, and not believing his ears, he muttered to himself, "This brat." Aster's insolent attitude made Alfredo wonder, did I mishear? Suddenly, from behind, Damien, who had accidentally overheard, asked curiously, "Damn it, hey, my friend, what does damn it mean?" Seeing him ask about such a trivial matter, Aster quickly covered his mouth, then politely refused with a nonchalant expression. "Thank you very much for nominating me as the successor to the family's head butler, but I think I prefer my current life. Once again, I am truly grateful." Those courteous words soothed Alfredo's mood, his expression relaxing. Why refuse? So that's the reason. He looked at Aster intently and suddenly understood, born in the gray zone, empty-handed since childhood, self-taught magic through natural talent. Meanwhile, the boy was glaring and covering Damien's mouth, while denying, "I didn't say damn it." The other boy argued back, "You did," while Alfredo was still lost in his speculation. "That must be why you are so arrogant." I understand I too was once an unknown wild and knowing no limits. After finishing his analysis, Alfredo tried to psychologically manipulate the boy, but kid. The world is a vast place. However, Aster just replied coldly, "I know it's not small." Though furious, Alfredo tried to restrain himself and advise, "Right now, you may feel as if you can do anything, as if you can reach for the heavens." But the boy answered very curtly, "Not really." That insolent attitude made the butler's anger threaten to erupt. He told himself, "Be patient, you must learn to be patient." Then he forced a smile and made a comparison. "Have you ever heard the saying about the goblin who lives in the ravine that is your current situation?" Because he had wandered far and wide and was not some inexperienced child, Aster replied arrogantly, "Born and raised in a ravine, completely unaware of how terrifying the outside world is, I think I'm more like a dragon king in the sky." Finally, the thread of Alfredo's patience snapped. He furiously stomped his foot, shattering the floor tiles, and hissed through his teeth. "This brat knows nothing." Next, Alfredo aggressively advanced. "In that case, I, a head butler, will personally show you just how vast and terrifying this world is." His face looked incredibly ferocious, his eyes looking as if they wanted to eat Aster alive. By now at the mansion, it had turned to noon. Alfredo led Aster along, flinging open the doors to the grand hall as if to prove his authority. The group of trainees who were practicing stopped in their tracks and stared when they saw the head butler. In a flash, they obediently formed a straight line, then respectfully called out in a greeting that echoed throughout the room, "Greetings, Lord Butler, greetings, Lord Butler." Before this display of power, Alfredo smugly puffed out his chest. "What do you think, kid? All of them are about your age. But they are the official prodigies of the Blandor family. Surely you can feel it to some extent, right?" This scene made Aster pensive. He thought to himself, the Blandor family is no joke. Looking at the group before him, Aster had to admit it's hard to believe they are only teenagers. Their auras are faint, but they already fill the entire room. Suddenly he smirked, but the whole group of trainees were smiling in unison, as if programmed, making Aster mutter mockingly, "Look at their eyes. They're just a bunch of goblins too." But on the outside, he'd still feigned agreement. "Well, I do feel something seeing this," Alfredo eagerly asked at once. "So will you accept my offer? If you become my successor, you will shine like them. No, you will shine brighter than anyone." However, a few seconds later, Aster doused Alfredo with cold water. "Again, I hate the light leaving the man to only hang his head in defeat, you little brat. Why?" Suddenly, a hand was raised, calling out loudly and catching his attention. "Lord Butler." It was a trainee with a conceited look on his face. Alfredo couldn't help but wonder, a trainee, you have something to say. He acted worldly and spouted a long tirade to belittle Aster. If that brat truly felt something, he wouldn't have refused the offer, but with the way he bluntly rejected it, I believe he hasn't felt enough. Seeing that he was being mentioned, Aster watched closely to see what trick he was up to. The trainee stated his purpose. "If I may be permitted, I would like to give him an experience." After hearing his presentation, Alfredo wanted to confirm, "You want to have a duel?" The guy still acted arrogant, not exactly a one-on-one fight, just to give him a little taste of what magic is. When he finished speaking, Alfredo thought for a moment, arrogant, but not bad. It seemed he had made a decision. Alfredo smiled and asked for Aster's opinion. "Kid, what do you think? How about a simple match with that guy?" He looked at them with soulless eyes, understanding perfectly in his heart. "I know it well they see me as a thorn in their side." Looking at the incredibly haughty trainees standing opposite him, Aster guessed what they were thinking. Some lucky beggar who crawled out of nowhere, that's probably what they think. Next, he asked in a way that implicitly accepted the request, "Can I choose my opponent?" Alfredo agreed. "Go ahead." He immediately pointed straight at the arrogant trainee from before you. Without stopping, Aster continued to point at several more people in the group of trainees. You too, and you as well. After finishing his selection, he made a bold declaration that stunned the entire group. "I'll fight all 5 of you at the same time." Then Aster beckoned tauntingly with a defiant face, scared, then dropped dead. Witnessing that scene made Alfredo break out in a cold sweat. But suddenly he bared his teeth in a grin. Then Alfredo burst into hearty laughter as if greatly pleased, holding Aster in high regard in his heart. That's right. That's the kind of spirit a successor needs to have. Immediately, Alfredo wanted to be certain. "Kid, do you dare take responsibility for those words?" "A statement like that is nothing short of an insult to the Blandor family," Aster replied in a confident tone. "I will take responsibility." After hearing the answer, the head butler raised a finger and nodded. "Good, then let's begin 1 minute. If you can last for 1 minute, I'll give you a gift, but if not, you will have to face the consequences." Those 2 words made Aster worry. The consequences here must be succeeding the head butler position. This old man is clearly trying to drag me in, but he wasn't afraid of anyone. Fine, I'm in. A while later, in the middle of the grand hall, Aster stood alone, challenging 5 trainees a crowd had gathered to watch. Runfit stood on the side and asked with concern, "But Lord Butler, isn't this dangerous?" Alfredo's face was filled with excitement. That's what makes it worthwhile. His stubbornness must be shattered for him to grow. That attitude left Runfit gaping and speechless. But unlike the butler, Runfit didn't want the match to happen at all. He felt a sense of unease. Asterisk. This isn't good. His eyes have rolled back. If I injure the young master's guest, my career as a trainer will be over. Right after that, he was surprised to see that Lancey had brought Damien over to watch at some point. To stop the fight, Runfit leaned down and whispered to Damien, "Young master, your friend is in real danger. Please stop the butler." However, he wasn't worried at all and was instead overjoyed. "Really, even I'm surprised." His attitude made Runfit face-palm in helplessness. Oh, good grief. Lancey, standing beside him, gave a stern warning. If you get involved, young Master Lady Gamma will be furious. Being under restriction, Damien pouted and muttered, "Damn it." Seeing Runfit dawdling, Alfredo had to speak up and remind him, "Trainer, what are you waiting for? Let's begin." Though reluctant, he couldn't disobey. "Yes, I understand." Meanwhile, after swearing, Damien was dragged off by Lancey for a lecture. Tears streamed down Runfit's face, his mood somber. Asterisk, an order is an order. I've done all I can. Suddenly, Lancey glanced over at him, her mind seemingly pondering something. Then she turned to instruct the young master, "I'll be back soon. Don't interfere." As soon as the maid was out of sight, Damien broke into a mischievous grin. "All right, then." A moment later, in the middle of the fighting floor, Runfit announced the rules to both sides. "All right, let me explain the rules. The match will be a series of individual bouts." But Alfredo, standing on the sidelines, cut in, "No, let's make it a free-for-all." Runfit was indignant, but he bit his lip and thought to himself, asterisk whatever, asterisk. Having been corrected, Runfit continued. "The format is a battle royale. The match will last until one side surrenders. However, the trainer can stop the fight at any time. Remember that." As soon as the trainer finished speaking, Aster switched into combat mode, glaring at his opponents. The trainees on the other side still looked disdainful, crossing their arms and scowling at him. The trainee who started the fight ground his teeth, seething internally, asterisk, "You nameless, ragged nobody. The young master and the butler might pity you, but who do you think you are? I'll crush you and expose your true colors to everyone." A second later, Runfit waved his hand as a signal. "Well, then begin." Before the trainee could even react, Aster had landed a critical blow to the center of his chest. Caught by the surprise attack, he was in agony, his face pale and contorted as he gasped for air. When he turned his head to look, he was horrified to realize something terrible. Quick as a flash, Aster had knocked out all the others, leaving them collapsed on the floor. But he didn't stop there. He stood before that arrogant trainee, making him tremble in fear. Next, he casually raised his hand and began juggling magic bullets, then smirked like a villain. "Looks like I'll have to teach you a few things myself. First, don't underestimate the weak." Seeing this, the trainee's face went pale with fear. He wondered in shock, asterisk, magic bullets, asterisk. Looking at the bullets hovering in Aster's hand, his mind grew uneasy. That's the most basic form of mana control. It consumes a lot of energy and is useless in a real fight. At that moment, Aster grinned and continued to lecture him. "Second, don't judge others so carelessly." As the words left his mouth, he unleashed all the magic bullets at the group of trainees. The special move struck them all straight in the head, causing them to stand frozen to the spot and take the hits. All they could do was open their mouths and scream. While the trainee was still reeling in terror, Aster spoke again. "Third." He zipped over and closed in on him without a sound, his fist raised and ready, then lectured, "This world is vast and bitter." In just an instant, a single swing of Aster's arm sent him flying. Afterward, he even got preachy. "From now on, I'm going to pour all of these experiences into you. Learn your lesson well." The trainee clutched his swollen face, crying and cursing angrily. "You psycho! This isn't magic!" But the fight wasn't over. Aster came flying in from a distance and said softly, "Oh, but it is." His two eyes glowed red like headlights. Then he launched himself forward and kicked him squarely. "This is physical arts magic." The scene before him left Runfit utterly stunned. His eyes widened and he was speechless. The trainees watching from the sidelines were also petrified with fear. They watched Aster, who was tirelessly and ferociously slamming two opponents at once, one in each hand. Alfredo wondered in amazement, asterisk, "Those are magic bullets compressed up to 4 or 5 times. Based on their power, they must have been compressed at least 4 times. He suddenly recalled the moment he had rushed at him. Aster had been on guard and sweating, asterisk. If that had actually hit me back then. Alfredo closed his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief, not noticing Damien eagerly rushing forward. Aster's skill left him even more impressed. Asterisk, truly a natural talent for mana control, and not just that. Witnessing Aster energetically taking on 5 opponents at once made him wonder, asterisk, why is he so good at fighting hand-to-hand, asterisk? At the same time, Damien was secretly casting healing magic. While he was lost in thought, a powerful voice rang out, making him jump. "Alfredo!" The butler immediately spun around and was surprised by the person standing behind him. Instantly, Alfredo cried out in alarm. Lady Gamo, the madam, had appeared looking imposing with Lancey by her side. Seeing this from a distance, Runfit rejoiced internally, asterisk, Lady Gamo is here. He was so happy he could cry, his heart screaming, asterisk, Lady Gamo has come to save us, asterisk. in contrast to Runfit. Lancey maintained a cold expression, but it was certainly she who had gone to tattle. The madam questioned sternly, "What has happened here?" Alfredo bowed flustered. "Ah, well, I just intended to run a simple test." Hearing the butler's excuse, Gamo frowned slightly. A test? In the middle of the hall, Aster was busy giving the trainees a thorough beating. The madam continued her questioning. "You call this a test?" Her precious son, who was secretly healing in a corner, was also called out. "Damien!" The madam ordered with a scowl, "First gather the trainees and have them withdraw." Receiving the order, Alfredo respectfully placed a hand on his chest in a gesture of obedience. Next, Gamo instructed her son, "Damien, you go back to your room first." He could only obey meekly. Then the madam turned to Aster and demanded in a stern voice, "You too, Aster, return to your room!" Finally, it was his turn to face the music. Trainer Runfit. He bowed his head low and replied, "Yes, Lady Gamo, I did my best." However, the madam made the decision he had feared most. "You're fired." Hearing this, Runfit froze. "What?" That evening, inside the mansion, Gamo called out to the butler, Alfredo. He quickly responded, "Yes, my lady." In her office, Gamo held a teacup and reprimanded him in a low voice. "I understand your intentions, but you went too far this time." Alfredo lowered his head and admitted his fault. "I apologize, my lady. I will accept any punishment." A second later, the madam placed her teacup on the table and continued, "However." Gamo's expression was cold as she inquired, "I heard Aster had a sparring match with the trainees. Did Damien help him?" Alfredo tried to maintain a calm demeanor. "No, he did it alone. It's just—" That trailing sentence caught the madam's attention, and she repeated, "It's just—" Recalling Aster's powerful form, Alfredo couldn't hide his delight as he praised him. "He's an extremely skilled fighter." That expression left Gamo at a loss for words. Realizing he had spoken out of turn, Alfredo quickly changed the subject. "All right. About those magic bullets I mentioned before, he used them in the sparring match today as well." Suddenly, his demeanor turned serious, his eyes hardening. "But he compressed them 4, even 5 times, increasing their power immensely." As he spoke, the image of the magic bullets involuntarily flooded his mind. After listening, Gamo came to a conclusion. "That proves it." Then the madam raised a hand to her chin, deep in thought. "He has excellent mana control." Her mind wandered asterisk, even though I didn't see it myself with just one magic bullet. Recalling the scene she had witnessed, Gamo mused asterisk. He defeated all 5 trainees with just 1 bullet. Even for a high-level mage, dealing with shield magic is extremely difficult. Suddenly, the madam remembered. "What about the inheritance offer?" Alfredo had to admit the truth. He flatly refused. The madam was silent for a moment, then reached for her teacup. "I see." Next, Gamo took a sip of tea, her mind full of calculations. Asterisk. Perhaps I need to reevaluate Aster and consider him more carefully. Then she gave an order, "Bring Aster here." Not long after, the butler brought Aster to her. He still wore an aloof expression as if no one was worth his notice. Inside the room, Gamo was waiting. "Aster, you've arrived. Please have a seat." Beside the madam, Damien was casually munching on a piece of cake. Aster didn't hesitate to step forward and ask directly, "I heard you summoned me." The madam confirmed, "That's right." Suddenly, the madam pushed a small box toward Aster and said cryptically, "But before that," this made him stare in surprise. "This is—" The madam quickly explained, "I heard that Alfredo promised you a gift." He looked at Gamo warily, Alfredo's promise echoing in his mind. Before the challenge match, he had said, "Asterisk that thing. If you can last for 1 minute, I'll give you a gift." Aster thought to himself, "Asterisk, I didn't expect it to come so soon and prepared by Lady Gamo herself." The lady smiled and suggested, "You can open it." Instantly, Aster grabbed the box, eager to open it right away. As the box creaked open, the item inside shone so brightly that it stunned him. "This is—" Inside was a shimmering golden gem. The lady added, "A high-grade item. Even within the Blandor family, only students who join the top 5 mage divisions receive one." But despite this generosity, Aster wasn't happy. His heart was filled with suspicion. "I'm not sure. Usually kindness stops at a meal. If there's a gift, there's clearly a hidden motive. If this were a reward for the bet, a mid-grade gift would make sense, but this is high grade." Being perceptive, Gamo could tell Aster was suspicious just by looking at him. The lady gently stroked her son's head, then reassured Aster, "You can accept it without worry. You helped Damien in the gray zone before, and this gift is also an apology for what happened today." However, he was still hesitant. "Wait, if I take this, do I have to join the Blandors?" Gamo replied without a second thought, "No." Still not convinced, the precious gift made Aster uneasy. He asked again, "Or is it poisoned?" The lady's expression grew impatient. "No! Next, Aster wanted to confirm thoroughly. You mean there are absolutely no strings attached? Gamo affirmed directly. That's right, no conditions at all. Only after getting a clear answer did he agree, in that case I'll accept it. Immediately he closed the lid and said succinctly, "Thank you." The lady replied politely, "It's truly nothing." Holding the gift, Aster's joy was visible. He cheered inwardly, great and unexpected windfall. But it seemed Gamo wanted to discuss something else. "In addition, I have a proposal for you, Aster." After hearing the lady speak, the smile on his lips vanished. He mused, "I knew it." No longer beating around the bush, Gamo stroked her son's head and proposed Aster. Then the lady presented her idea. "I will arrange for you to enroll in the academy. Would you like to study with Damien?" This sudden invitation confused Aster. He repeated, "The academy." Then the lady explained further. Actually, Damien was supposed to enroll last year. As she spoke, Gamo glanced at Damien and lamented, but he protested so vehemently, so it had to be postponed until this year. The lady continued to sigh. "I didn't expect him to run away." Hearing his mother mention him, Damien pouted. He had been eating non-stop this whole time. To conclude, Gamo made her request, "So I'm asking you, Damien is very fond of you." Needless to say, Damien was thrilled. "As long as a friend comes with me, I'll agree." After hearing the reason, Aster looked at the lady intently thinking, "It makes sense." A tangled mess of thoughts ran through his mind. For Bianca, this is a huge problem. She's afraid that if she forces Damien to enroll, he'll run away again. He imagined Damien defying his mother. "I'm not going. Don't even think about it." Aster continued his assessment, and there's no clear way to change his mind. He continued to weigh the pros and cons. "Of course, this is a good opportunity for me, too. The academy is a good place. In a world that revolves around bloodlines and connections, academic ties are of no small value." After some deliberation, Aster still couldn't decide. He agonized internally. "It sounds good, but it feels like being put on a leash." A moment later, Aster replied curtly, "I'll think about it." Gamo didn't press him. "Understood. Let me know when you've decided." Setting that matter aside, the lady changed the subject, catching Aster's attention. "Oh, by the way, this is unrelated, but I'm a little curious." Then the lady asked, "Why did you refuse Alfredo's offer of succession?" He didn't answer immediately, but glanced at the door as if he knew perfectly well the butler was eavesdropping. Suddenly he smirked. "Well," at that moment the scene of Alfredo sliding on his knees to find Damien replayed in his head. Then he uttered arrogantly, "My knees are quite valuable, you know." This statement made Gamo exclaim in bewilderment, "What?" Meanwhile, outside, Alfredo was pressing his ear against the door, trying to overhear the answer. It's unclear if he heard anything. He just grimaced and muttered, "Huh." The mansion seemed to be hiding in the mystical night. Aster took a deep breath to absorb the item he had just taken out. Its effect made him think, "Is this a rare elixir? I've only absorbed 10% and my mana has already increased this much." Aster opened his eyes to look. Could it be because of the physical change to the fire seal? His hand was surrounded by an aura of light. Normally, absorbing an elixir involves loss and impurities, but there are none here. The efficiency is even better than I thought. Of course, Aster hadn't forgotten the afternoon's conversation. "Speaking of the academy, I've been thinking about it all this time, and perhaps the answer is already clear." His thoughts were, "If I enroll in the academy, it will be easier to find a sponsor. There are many advantages, but..." Thinking this, Aster sighed. "It feels like I'm walking into a trap. Maybe I should go for a run to clear my head." With that thought, he stopped absorbing the elixir to get up and go outside. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him, "You're Aster, right?" The speaker was a boy with platinum blonde hair. In the main family line, only Damien has that hair color, so he must be from a branch family. This new character was already annoying him. Why is this family so troublesome? Not wanting any attention, Aster lied immediately. "No, that's not me." The other boy's jaw dropped. "Not you." He began to reconsider dark ash-gray hair. "An unpleasant look in your eyes. It's all exactly as described." Aster grew even more irritated. "Look at this kid." Although he wasn't happy about it, he tried to maintain a pleasant demeanor. "Hair color can change a lot depending on the lighting." Aster turned on the charm. "Look at these eyes. How could you possibly say they're unpleasant?" His dazzling charm made the other boy stare without blinking. Unexpectedly, the performance convinced the white-haired boy. You do look gentle. Sorry for the misunderstanding. I'll be on my way." Just when he thought he had successfully hidden his identity, an interloper appeared. "Master Aster, I've come to clear up the misunderstanding. I couldn't speak with you last night, so I couldn't sleep a wink." Alfredo shouted, "I may be a butler, but that doesn't mean I have to kneel. That was a misunderstanding." His voice, loud enough for the entire mansion to hear, left Aster at a loss. He could only turn to look at the white-haired kid, knowing his plan was now ruined. As expected, the boy was looking back at Aster with a face that showed he understood everything. He could only curse inwardly, "Damn it!" as he endured the white-haired kid's yelling. Those eyes, I knew I was right. Yes, unpleasant eyes like those of a dead goblin aren't common. So Aster confessed, all right, it's me. But the other boy kept pointing, "See how dare you lie to me so brazenly?" The white-haired kid made no attempt to be subtle. "I'll kill." That insult greatly displeased Alfredo. Knowing he couldn't do anything right now, the boy just clicked his tongue. But the white-haired boy's fighting spirit was still high. "I'll let you go for now, but later in the magic room, I'm going to fix that crooked attitude of yours." Aster just replied, yeah. In response to Alfredo's unspoken question, he just smiled. Nothing serious. Aster thought to himself, I was just in a bad mood. This is good too. I'll deal with you later. And so he watched the back of the still fuming white-haired boy as he walked away. After watching him leave, Aster finally spoke head butler. His request was, "May I see the lady right now?" Despite his request, he had to wait until morning to see Gamo. At that time, the lady was handling official business. "Welcome, Master Aster." Gamo asked Aster, "Oh, requesting to see me so early. Does this mean you've made your decision?" His voice replied immediately, "Yes, my lady." He accepted the invitation. "I will enroll in the academy." It seemed that his statement surprised even the lady herself. But Gamo was quite pleased. That was unexpected, very decisive. The decision was made. "Good then, we must begin preparations at once." The lady added, "While you wait, please make yourself at home." Aster bowed with proper etiquette. "Thank you for your consideration, my lady." The door, which had only been open for a moment, closed before Gamo once more. But afterwards, Alfredo cracked the door open once again. He then said to Gamo, "My lady, that kid." Luckily, he agreed. Alfredo's entire being radiated excitement. As expected of a young man, his passion, the blazing fire in his eyes. I understand it well. In contrast to his enthusiasm, the lady's expression remained as cold as ice. The scheme Alfredo had devised was, the first semester won't be a problem since we'll cover it, but what about the next semester? Normally, for a vagrant from the gray zone, securing enough tuition will be very difficult. He'll surely be worried. Why? Because he'll want to continue his studies. His imagination was now running wild. That's when Alfredo conjured an image of himself distributing coins. A helping hand appeared, and that was Alfredo's patronage. Having heard enough, Gamo grumbled, "Alfredo, you're too loud." The lady's voice successfully cut off his train of thought. Oh my, I got too excited again anyway. It's almost time to eat. I'm heading down to the kitchen." Just as with Aster, Gamo had to watch Alfredo close the door and leave. Seeing he was gone, the lady sighed. "I understand why Alfredo is so happy after being rejected so many times. He finally has another chance." His thoughts made Gamo dissatisfied in this respect. The academy plan is also quite careless. Although that was the case, the reason for Alfredo's confidence was. Remembering the incident from long ago made the lady shake her head because he himself had once been caught by the previous head butler in a similar manner. Meanwhile, the person Gamo was thinking of was still smiling, poor Alfredo. After his audience with the lady, Aster went to take care of his own business. Feeling he had arrived at his destination, he tried looking up. Before Aster was a massive tower. This was the magic tower where the kid from the Branch family lived. The reason he came here was because of the challenge from that white-haired kid. As soon as he pushed the door open, someone greeted Aster. "What are you doing here?" This question made him flustered. Because Aster had just remembered, that's right, I don't even know his name. Unable to state a name, he resorted to describing the person's appearance. Fortunately, the robed figure understood immediately. I was waiting for you this way." He then led Aster through a vast corridor, yawning as he went. "They didn't stop until they saw a door. You can go in here. A warning was added on. After you open the door, watch your head." Although he was quite curious about what he meant, he opened the door as usual. A pile of paper flew right into Aster's face, so that's what "watch your head" meant. The flying pile of paper came not only with dust, but also with a greeting. "You are Sir Aster." Another robed figure approached. "It's a pleasure to meet you." The person introduced himself. "I am Henji Juan Blanco. You've come to see my younger brother." He exclaimed in surprise. What a question popped into his head. Younger brother? Did he just call him his younger brother? Aster was sitting on the tower, cloaked if there was anything he had learned from infiltrating many magic academies during his time as a troubleshooter. His vision encompassed the entire area below. In Aster's mind, he thought mages who research magic. His experience in judging them could be summarized. It was a characteristic of those generally called pen wielders. The thing growing on their heads was what Aster targeted first: messy hair, because they've pulled it out so much that it can't grow properly. He then described it in more detail if we divide it into stages. When the victim starts to realize they're going bald, that's stage 1. To hide it, they pull their hoods down low over their heads. But the hair keeps falling out, leading to stage 2, giving up and taking off the hood. When they see that the remaining hair isn't worth much, it's stage 3, shaving their heads completely. But that's not the end. The final stage, stage 4, is when they realize how to turn the impossible into the possible, hair growth magic, because no one has ever succeeded. And yet today, Aster had met a strange creature, but this one was different. That guy was even pouring tea first. I shall apologize. Henji's words were filled with politeness. I wonder if he is acting this way because of his young age. Surely a guest of the young master would not commit such a discourtesy. He, however, was still observing the other person. Amazing, he's young too. Once the tea was poured, the two sat and talked. You probably work at the Magic Academy. That's right, I am currently serving as the vice director here. Please have some tea. His position also struck Aster as odd to be a vice director at such a young age. Surely a prestigious family like the Bloodlands wouldn't just place a blood relative in the vice director position. It means he has the skills to deserve it. Henji also seemed to sense the scrutiny coming from him. Through observation, he noted young Master Aster is a bit different from the usual stubborn young lords of noble families. These words made Aster give a strained laugh. Is that so? He lamented inwardly. It would be more understandable if he had appeared after staying up all night, but instead of pulling an all-nighter, he's wearing such a gentle smile. Aster's conclusion about this person was, he and I will get along just fine. Henji then changed the subject. By the way, you were recommended for enrollment at Zenyan Academy. Correct, congratulations. The protagonist wasn't very comfortable, thanks, but he continued. This will be a good opportunity. There are also many things to learn. In fact, I also graduated from Zenyan Academy. For your reference, I was in the 145th class. He was still on guard. Why suddenly bring up our academy connection like this? Aster's demeanor also made Henji feel a bit guilty. My apologies, I was just happy that you'll be attending Zenyan Academy, so I rambled on. Well, then shall we get to the main point? His curiosity began to surface. The main point. The teacup in his hand was set down. Before that, there is one thing I need to verify. The question was posed, would you risk your life for your friend? Talking about life and death while drinking tea made no sense to Aster. What do you mean? Henji's hand suddenly glowed as if on fire. This is a matter concerning the honor of the Blandor family, if you can risk your life. The item for the exchange was placed on the table. I will give you this book. He immediately noticed the glowing object, this book. That treasure was the core secret of the Blandor family, the secret art of light therapy. Meanwhile, Gamo was busy tending to her garden. The lady's skillful hands pruned each sunflower. Gradually, every flower had been meticulously cared for. Seeing the work was done, Gamo stood up and let out a long sigh. The lady thought of her son ever since the matter of Damien transferring to the academy, which was a huge headache, was handled without any trouble. My mind has been more at ease. Gamo also remembered the one who would be attending school with her son Aster. That boy is a good friend. To the lady, Aster was currently someone who was also quite talented, and his nature, although Alfredo says he can be a bit strange and somewhat impudent at times, everyone is like that at his age. A smile formed on Gamo's lips, and the thing I like most. The lady praised his integrity in her heart. Even after learning of Damien's family background, he didn't change his attitude or start sucking up to the boy. Gamo quietly turned her head. He is very different, which makes him worth keeping, but because of that, what the lady realized was he won't belong anywhere. He's like a free bird. Even so, Gamo didn't want to lose Aster. There are many ways to keep someone by your side. I will have to think about the right method at the appropriate time. The lady resolved, for Damien's sake, I cannot let a talent of this caliber slip away. Meanwhile, Aster was still staring at the old yet magical book lying silently on the table. Facing someone like Henji, he didn't dare to let his guard down. Is it a trap? Not a word was spoken. Aster scrutinized him bit by bit. His eyes are bright and clear, perhaps that's why. Henji's entire being is as if enveloped by a shield. I can't read him. The person talking to him was like a stone statue. Regardless of whether one's gaze is good or evil, it should reveal some emotion, but like a perfect assassin, there was no emotion at all. In other words, he was like a person who never stopped smiling, as if wearing a mask, to the point that even he himself didn't truly know who he was. Although he was advised, don't take this lightly, don't answer hastily just because you see the reward before you, but Aster already had his answer. I'll answer right away. Once it's clear, this uncomfortable feeling will also disappear. The answer was brief, not interested. At the same time, he also understood him better. There's no need to be awkward when we're in the same boat. Aster crossed his legs. Come on, if you have something to ask. Just say it. His voice carried a joking tone. If I can do it, I'll do it, and if I can't, then I don't have to. Only then did Henji's expression turn serious. Just hearing it could put your life in danger if you listen and still refuse. I might have to kill you, young Master Aster. But Aster was not one to be outdone, then kill me. We only live once after all. The only problem was his pose was cool, but what he said was dead wrong as for me. This is my second life, huh? After the two had finished threatening each other, the room suddenly began to change. A chaotic flow of magic emanating from him created a whirlwind in the room. The half-drunk teacup shook violently because of its owner. The swirling currents of air continued to move because Henji had no intention of stopping. And right at the center of that chaos was Aster, the one who had made him waver. After he was done with his little show, Henji stopped his display and suddenly burst out laughing. He praised him sincerely. "Oh my, I couldn't help myself, young Master Aster, you have passed the test. Since you're sitting there with your arms crossed, listening so intently, I'll speak freely. The truth is, I need someone I can trust, but for that very reason, they cannot be a member of the Blandor family." To Aster, that feigned attack just now wasn't safe at all. He had almost thrown a full-power surprise punch after all. Henji's mouth moved ceaselessly. "To be honest, I didn't expect much. Well, all the children from the black and white region are the same. You're too young, perhaps you haven't developed a good eye for people yet." What led to his speculation was, but why would a family head with such a distinguished reputation keep a stubborn young master from the black and white region by his side? I wonder if there's something hidden behind it. But luckily, he finished Henji's sentence for him. "The youngest brother and the guest had an argument is that whether you speak informally or formally, just pick one. Let's go with Master Aster." Though he found the guest rude, he decided to let it slide. In any case, a suitable pretext appeared right then. The younger brother and the guest had argued, so the older brother called the involved parties for a discussion. That was a plausible scenario. These words made Aster ponder. "You say it's a plausible scenario. What reason would the vice president of the Magic Academy have to use his own younger brother as an excuse to get involved in a conflict? What is this about?" Seeing he hadn't been persuasive enough, Henji continued. "How about this then? This is a difficult situation, so I can't take the initiative to step forward. This isn't a power struggle within the family. The Blandor family is very close-knit." His smiling face changed in an instant before he revealed the information. "The real problem is I'm being monitored by the Devolin family." He recalled the name Devolin. He then asked bluntly, "Why?" Henji answered as thoroughly as ever. "Well, you said you don't care if you die, so I'll be frank. However, I have no intention of killing you." The next thing he revealed was, "Actually, I'm currently researching the Devolin family's primordial magic. It seems I've been successful." As he continued to drone on, "You know about primordial magic, right? It's a secret art that only those of the Devolin bloodline can learn, but I happen to acquire it," and Aster cut him off. "Hold on." His question was, "What about that guy? The one who should have been dead a long time ago is still alive. If he was researching from the Blandor family's perspective, he would have been studying how to destroy it, wouldn't he?" Henji naturally elaborated. "You know, the Devolin family is a bit reclusive. If they found out I was researching it, they would try to take my life, even though I'm the vice president. But I have to say, at first, I only intended to research how to destroy it, but..." His eyes widened. "Don't you see?" The explanation echoed from the depths of his soul. Primordial magic, the very source of all the Devolin family's secret arts. Henji clutched his heart. A supplementary method to improve an art that was already so perfect. I couldn't stop myself. If it were you, Aster, you'd understand this feeling, wouldn't you? After hearing him out, Aster could only stare wide-eyed. This man wasn't just mad, he was utterly insane. After Henji said, "I couldn't stop Aster, you understand my feelings, don't you?" Aster screamed internally. This guy, he's not just mad, he's actually researching that thing within his own family. But he also realized something. Wait a minute, then the timing is a perfect match. In my previous life, when the Deculin family annihilated the Blando family, the entire affair revolved around Henji's research into a new version of primordial magic. Aster's gaze fell on the half-empty teacup. Paherin. That bastard bet the entire fate of the Deculin family to crush the Blando family over this. It all made sense now. From the very beginning, he had seen the true potential of the new primordial magic. He could almost see the form of that man, and the reason he was so monstrously powerful was because, while he was lost in thought, Henji called out softly, "Aster." The moment his name was spoken, Aster snapped back to reality. Henji read his expression and guessed, "Regretting it already?" Well, it's true that it would require a much larger scale. Aster asked, "Forget it, so why did you come to me?" The conversation continued. "First, I haven't reported my research on primordial magic to the family. It seems there's a spy somewhere within the Blando family, but I can't seem to find them." Hearing this, Aster offered a suggestion. If the secret was leaked, wouldn't you have someone you suspect your secretary, for instance? But this thought was dismissed. No, that's not it. To be more precise, it's more related to the acquisition route. He tried to reason it out. If the acquisition route was traced, then someone must have deliberately leaked the security plan. Henji agreed, precisely. The moment I realized my trail was exposed, I released part of the security plan to counter the risk. I don't want to die, you know. A sly smile appeared on Aster's face. Wouldn't it be easier to side with the Deculans? They would surely welcome you. But the other man maintained his mild expression. Well, let's just say I have personal reasons. Henji raised a hand. Regardless, Aster, since you have no direct ties to the family, I need you to handle this secretly. Papers flew towards him on command. In truth, this research is a joint project, but the part I'm responsible for isn't progressing well. He grabbed them and affirmed, I will make sure you are rewarded handsomely. The stack of papers came with a task. Deliver this thesis to Professor Faroon at Zenion Academy. Afterwards, I will grant you the light therapy. Watching all of Henji's drawn-out gestures made Aster freeze up. But Aster quickly realized this was his opportunity. He agreed to the deal. All right. And Aster made a demand of his own. I accept the light therapy, and I also want the complete new primordial magic later. Only then will we truly be allies in the same boat, correct? He had his own calculations. I need to make one more bet. Despite being scorned with Aster, you are truly shameless, Aster remained firm. Just give me a yes or no, otherwise I won't accept. Henji had to concede. Fine. The new primordial magic, huh? The name doesn't matter. It's useless to you now since you haven't read the original, but I'll give you the complete version later. He brushed his hair back as if to get a better look. However, I have a condition of my own. What Henji wanted was an assurance. Until this thesis is finished, I might need your help, Aster. I expect you to lend a hand when that time comes. If we're in the same boat, that's the least you can do, isn't it? For his own benefit, he agreed, that won't be a problem. If it's about the thesis, I'll help. By the way, I can't read. Seeing that his new ally was in danger of being completely illiterate, Henji had no choice but to offer a helping hand. But it was just a prank. Just kidding. You're not only shameless, but you also have a terrible sense of humor. Aster tucked the documents into his clothes. So is this Professor Faroon trustworthy? The question reminded him of old times. From our student days to our time as teaching assistants, he and I always fought for first and second place. Unfortunately, our rivalry ended when I returned to the Blando family. He glanced furtively at the person before him. In any case, I was the one who came out on top. Or perhaps that's just my own delusion. This incorrigible element made Aster despair. Professor Faroon, huh? This world is truly doomed. To think there's another lunatic like him at the academy. After meeting his new friend, he hurried back to the mansion. Aster brazenly took the bag and emptied all of its contents. He muttered to himself as he worked. He stuffed it all in a spatial bag to avoid being found out, but why carry so much? Amidst the jumbled mess, a sealed letter caught Aster's eye. He opened the letter and read, "To my dear friend Aster." The very first line made Aster curse, "Dear friend, my ass." The letter wasn't long. I have selected the necessary grimoires that you must master for your future. I've written the order in which to study them below. Please study hard to cultivate an intellect worthy of your stature. After reading the sign-off, your friend Henji von Blando, he praised, "This is a fine gift indeed." Afterwards, Aster picked up the books and arranged them neatly. Looking at the pile of books, he had to admit, to lay out an entire magic curriculum from basic to advanced, he truly is a genius, and a madman too. Man. Aster then smiled cheerfully. Excellent! He pulled out the pen and paper he had just found and placed them on the table. Aster then wrote on the paper, "Sponsorship list Henji von Blando." He looked it over. Let's see. Excluding the light therapy and the new primordial magic thesis, there are about 132 books. Placing the holy scripture of luminous healing in the tower for all to see is a separate issue. I'll have to discuss it with Damien later. Thinking of his naive companion, Aster smiled. You can call it the privilege of friendship. His gaze fell to the table. And these 132 books Henji gave me, they aren't just 132 books. They were Aster's textbooks. They formed a single cohesive system. If such a system existed, anyone who wanted to learn magic could build a solid foundation. He pictured the path forward. Yes, before I only thought of storing books in the tower, but things are different now. Aster's dream was for it to become the identity of the magic tower, a place that grants knowledge to those who hunger for it. At that same moment, someone else was also awake an unexpected harvest. Henji looked through the window at first. If he was useful, I intended to let him proceed with his thesis, but if not, I would just use him and then discard him. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, but Aster is an interesting one. Thinking of him made Henji laugh moreover. The scene of Aster's threat appeared. Then just kill me, what's the difference between dying once or twice anyway? The fool laughed out loud at this kill him. Does he really want me to kill him? That was just a threat to test him, but on second thought, I have no reason not to kill him but that look in his eyes. Henji had to admit, but that look in his eyes, he wasn't just talking empty words. He truly didn't care about dying. His interest grew even more. He's so different from those other pigs. Interesting, truly. Henji had a thought. It's true that he's hiding many things, but isn't that for the better? I've found an ally who can stand by my side and look in the same direction. Moreover, he covets the results of my research. What a novel feeling. And yet there was still something that made him wonder, but does he really not know how to read grimoires? But Henji immediately brushed that theory aside. No way, definitely not. Early morning once again returned to the grand mansion. Aster was fastening the last buttons on his new clothes. The suitcase had been prepared the night before now, sitting neatly on the floor. He turned his head when he heard a voice call, "Sir Aster, it is time to depart." Right after that call, someone picked up the suitcase and walked out of the room. Lancy, while carrying the suitcase, instructed, when you arrive at the academy, there will be some simple paperwork, by the way. Both the young master and Sir Aster are exempt from the entrance exam. She looked at Aster, unable to hide the satisfaction in her eyes. In her heart, Lancy was very pleased. Even so, you truly look like a real academy student. Now it suits you very well. He said softly thank you, and she urged, let's go. The information Lancy just provided made Aster think exempt from the exam. Huh. As expected of a prestigious family, it's like direct admission, not that I'm complaining about being exempt. Again, a voice called to him from a distance friend. The young master was waving and calling, hurry up, come on. Watching his son get into the carriage, Gamo reminded Damien, take care of yourself. Aster, yes. The lady looked at Aster and wished him well. This is a great opportunity. I sincerely hope you achieve good results. Hearing these words made him happy, thank you. Aster's foot stepped onto the carriage step. The results I want, huh? Of course, that's been my plan all along. The carriage began to move. The greatest academy on the eastern continent, Xenion. Countless patrons are waiting for me there. The mansion thus grew more and more distant, and I will seize everything for my plans. A new chapter began to unfold. Just you wait, you fools. I know, my dear fellow students, here I come. The horse-drawn carriage began to roll, its speed gradually increasing. Damien excitedly pressed against the glass window, his sparkling eyes shining brightly as he watched the scenery on both sides of the road. Only Aster was pensive, his gaze following the fragmented but detailed scenes as expected. He focused on the book in his hand, gradually understanding Henji is a truly outstanding magical scholar. The basic principles of magic are simple, but their detailed interpretations are very diverse. Aster felt as if a stream of water was dripping from every word. Take water, for example. In his eyes, it was an image that brought good, positive energy. For some people, it is just an ordinary source of water. It could also be an omen of disaster, but for someone else, it could be a natural catastrophe like a flood. Through this, Aster understood a philosophy. The difference lies in perspective, although the principles are the same from different perspectives. Each great family develops its magic in different directions. And that very thing made him want to understand Henji even more. The more I reread the grimoires, the clearer it becomes. Henji's secret arts are related to the primordial magic of Deculin. Suddenly, Damien called out, his voice full of excitement. Friend, look. His eyes shone brightly, excitement spreading across his face as he shouted happily, we're here. The carriage also began to slow down because right before them was Xenion Academy, towering with majestic spires reaching for the blue sky. Aster peeked his head out of the carriage window, his eyes carefully observing every detail. This is Xenion Academy. Lancy, sitting beside him, also spoke, her voice gentle yet clear. The carriage can only take you this far for enrollment according to the teachings of the wise sage, who was also the first headmaster. Regardless of one's status, everyone must enter on their own 2 feet. She smiled at him one last time before leaving, her eyes full of affection, her lips curving slightly. I suppose we must part ways here. I wish you a smooth opening ceremony and hope you receive valuable teachings. Watching the carriage depart, Damien waved goodbye. Just as Aster was still standing there dazed, Damien quickly grabbed his hand, his voice urgent, my friend. Let's hurry up and go. He seemed to be brimming with excitement for this new school. His eyes sparkling, his whole body trembling with anticipation, Lancy said, if we're late, all the seats will be taken. However, that only astonished Aster more. What the hell is he talking about? The opening ceremony at an academy this grand is organized like a village school. You even have to fight for a seat. Suddenly, another thought flashed through his mind. Wait, I can consider this. This was clearly said so that Damien wouldn't dilly-dally on his way to the academy. In the end, Aster helplessly let Damien pull him along without any resistance whatever. I'll just trust him this time, even though I'm a bit quiet. I'm not rude, I'm not doing this because I'm laid back, but because I need to fit in here. A while later, the two of them finally arrived at the auditorium. Around them, a few groups of students had gathered, saving seats while chattering and getting to know one another. Because they arrived quite early, the auditorium still had many empty seats, and the morning light shone through the windows, reflecting off the long rows of desks. Damien exclaimed excitedly, like a child, his eyes shining brightly, so many people. He looked around with delight, his eyes sparkling. Only Aster was weary, sighing softly. Lancey was right. Be late, and there are no seats. Well, it seems she was only partially right. Not right at all, there are still plenty of seats. Aster slowly took something out of his pocket, observing it carefully. It turned out to be their assigned seats. He pointed, look, room M3 seats 11 and 12. Hearing that, Damien urged him on even faster, his voice ringing with excitement. Friend, can we go sit there? If we don't hurry and sit down, the seats will be gone. No, wait a minute. Throughout the journey here, Aster had been skeptical, glancing at his companion. Didn't you say you didn't want to come to the academy? Why are you so happy? Suddenly, Damien fell backward, letting out a loud, surprised cry. He looked up at the other person in a daze, his face clearly showing his astonishment. But in response, the guy only showed contempt and disgust, his eyes cold and sharp. Hickster frowned in annoyance, asking in a growl, what's your problem? Ignoring his demeanor, Aster calmly helped Damien up. Are you all right? I'm not hurt at all. Right after that, Damien also apologized and tried to leave. It was probably because I wasn't looking ahead. Please, excuse me. However, Hickster did not accept that. Wait a minute. The guy held out his stained sleeve, his voice steely. You got my sleeve dirty. Aster said nothing, only observing with concern because he knew this was going to be a big deal. That saliva, he looks like he has the blood of a great family in this kingdom in a situation like this. Damien, probably. And yet not only was Damien not afraid, he even used his own saliva to wipe off that very stain. I'm sorry, let me wipe it for you. Hickster was enraged to the point of his face, darkening, the veins on his face beginning to bulge. Great, it's sparkling clean now. Just wait until I polish it to be shinier than before. There's definitely going to be trouble. Now there might even be a fight for sure. As expected, right after that, the guy flew into a rage and threw a punch straight at Damien's face. Use your head, you idiot. But a voice cut in, hey, fellow student. The fist was seen right in front of Damien's eyes, but had been blocked. You are in the wrong right now. Aster looked at him coldly and said it would probably be better if we stopped here. Hickster became even more furious, and who the hell are you? Before Aster could answer, Damien cleverly interjected. He is my friend, that's right, I am this guy's friend. The guy yanked his hand away, threatening resentfully. Is that so? You two are really good friends. Someone willing to take a hit for their friend, that's hard to find, but today you will regret making that choice. Aster sighed wearily, knowing that things were getting difficult to handle. Making friends at this academy from the very first day is probably going to be difficult. But he wasn't someone who would let others bully him without fighting back. Well, I'll figure it out later. For now, what's needed, in short, you don't want to resolve this amicably, do you? Immediately, everyone around began to murmur noisily over there. What's happening? It looks like something is about to happen between those three. They gathered in several groups and started whispering to each other. Who are they? I don't know. That tall guy over there seems to be from the Dolanfeka family lineage, but I've never seen the other two before. Just then, the tension between the two sides was about to ignite, and everyone started chattering more. Who's going to win this fight? Maybe the tall guy from the Dolanfeka clan will win. I heard this year's new students are all a bunch of savages. Suddenly, a loud shout made everyone jump. What do you all think you're doing? He shouted urgently. There's trouble. Someone do something, intervene. Shouldn't we stop them right before things get out of hand? Then the student gave a command. This means you're all starting a fight on your own terms, isn't it? It seemed the others here listened to him. Hey, you guys spread out a bit. That silver-haired one is a mage. Form a magic barrier around them too. In just a moment, the whole crowd helped create the magic barrier. A blue light enveloped the entire area, officially isolating the three of them. Once everything was settled, the students were no longer afraid and started cheering loudly. Hickster, go for it. I'm on your side. I'll bet 2 tickets he'll win. I'll bet 3. You idiots, the 2 guys on the other side are the ones who can win. Mixed in with the crowd, a figure stood from a distance, quietly observing. He smiled slyly, seeming very amused. Then Hickster slammed his fists together threateningly. His entire body was enveloped in a dark, murderous aura. He asked fiercely, so what's your name? Aster just calmly adjusted his collar. I don't have the blood of a powerful family like you guys. You can just consider me a passerby. Hearing that, Hickster breathed a sigh of relief, as he didn't want to get involved with nobles either. So that means you don't carry the blood of a great family in this kingdom, huh? That's great then. In a tight arena like this, a mage is definitely at a disadvantage. I won't waste any more words. I'll just let you have a taste of my fists first. Come on. Of course, none of that scared Aster in the slightest. On the contrary, he even smiled smugly. This idiot is truly hilarious. Then Aster yanked his tie to one side, officially issuing a challenge. Quite the long-winded speech, huh? I didn't even want to do this. What are you scared now? Bring it on. Seeing his opponent act so arrogantly made Hickster even more furious. This bastard! Without a moment's hesitation, he charged towards Aster. Just then, Hickster looked like a beast with glowing eyes, but in response to that murderous aura, Aster remained calmly in place. Hickster's punch seemed to tear through the air. He put his all into the swing, but Aster dodged it. Suddenly, he realized with a shock, not bad. Immediately, Aster clenched his fist, ready to retaliate. But you're finished for messing with me. The punch slammed hard into Hickster's face, sending blood splattering everywhere. His entire body went limp as he was sent flying backward. Aster clenched his fist, which was blazing with magic, his muscles tensing and veins popping as he swiftly delivered the blow. Maybe you need a good beating to come to your senses. With a fist like this, how many magic students could possibly take it? Immediately after, a thunderous punch flew straight into Hickster's face, sending blood flying and filling the air with a faint metallic tang. Caught off guard, he was knocked backward, his body staggering, but he managed to plant his feet to keep from collapsing. Luckily, he managed to plant his feet in time, or he would have fallen flat on his back. What? What was that? Hickster frowned in horror, staring intently at Aster, the question repeating endlessly in his mind. What the hell kind of punch is this heavy, this guy? Right now, with those cold eyes, he truly looked more like a monster than anything else. Is he really a mage? Suddenly, something touched his wound. It was healing magic, warm yet powerful. Hickster couldn't believe it. Damien was actually healing him. His mind was spinning. He couldn't understand why the very person he had just been bullying was now happily helping him. Why is this happening? Perhaps that was what made him lose focus on the fight until Aster's voice pulled him back to reality. A noble lineage is still a noble lineage, isn't it? The moment the voice stopped, Hickster took another full-force punch. You still have time to get distracted. The magic barrier continued to isolate them in their own separate world, creating an impenetrable space. A continuous barrage of punches rained down gradually, forcing Hickster onto the defensive, his body cowering and his eyes filled with fear and astonishment. It was then that he understood everything. One person attacks, you're really strong. He couldn't believe it. The fact that Damien was constantly healing him was part of their plan. While the other one heals. This cycle of being beaten and then healed repeatedly made Hickster feel like nothing more than an eternal punching bag. These lunatics, my heart can't keep up. If I get beaten to a pulp, will this just keep going? He took another step back. Now he wasn't just being tormented physically, but mentally as well. Am I trembling in fear? The others, not understanding what was happening, cheered for him even louder. Hickster, do something. Don't go easy on him. The pride of the Dolan family, the pride of the Eastern continent. From all sides came words of encouragement for Hickster, the hope of the warriors. They were like machines screaming incessantly. We believe in you. Hey, this is dragging on for too long. End this quickly. The pressure weighed down on Hickster to the point where he could no longer think straight. He gritted his teeth. How dare you? Everything enraged Hickster to his very core. How dare you? You're just a common mage. Aster paid him no mind, simply continuing to beat him to a pulp. He glanced at Hickster provocatively. You're pretty tough, huh? Of course, that made him lose his mind and charge forward again. You'll pay for daring to hit me in the face. Hickster roared in fury. Don't you dare look down on me. This time, he threw a punch with all his might towards Aster. Surprisingly, Aster didn't seem to react in time. Seeing that the tables might turn, the crowd cheered joyfully. There it is, that's our Hickster. However, Hickster realized in horror that the feedback from the punch made it clear it had landed with immense force. Aster took a direct hit to the stomach, yet nothing happened. But why does he look completely unfazed? He just gently shifted his body and stood firm. Aster casually dusted himself off, completely hiding any trace of the punch. So dusty. This left Hickster standing there, stunned, his face a mask of astonishment. The moment he realized, he screamed in panic, his voice trembling. But that still wasn't enough. Hickster decided to attack once more, determined not to give up. Aster merely glanced at him coldly, his gaze as sharp and cold as ice, without a trace of fear. Just then, he turned to look at Damien, who was still using recovery magic on the guy. If I want to end this, I need to take him down in a single punch. Whether intentionally or not, Damien continued to heal Hickster without stopping. Aster closed his eyes tightly and thought, let's see, this might just work. Suddenly, streams of lightning began to gather in the palm of his hand. A secret art created by me and my comrades in a past life. His cold eyes slowly opened. Energy formed from the collision of mana particles. Hickster, meanwhile, was still charging forward like an out-of-control beast. Although he used magical energy, his attack relied entirely on his own physical techniques. In response, Aster delivered a powerful punch. This is a pure secret art based on the truly transformative properties of mana. The two terrifying powers collided, creating a violent tremor, a close-quarters combat technique. It even significantly affected the people maintaining the magic barrier. They screamed in terror, What is this?" Inside, Hickster could be seen standing motionless, his entire body as stiff as a statue. The very next second, he collapsed to his knees, his body trembling with no strength left to resist. In the arena, only Aster remained standing firm, calm amidst the smoke dust and chaos. This terrifying sight left everyone around stunned. No one dared to even breathe loudly. The entire area was plunged into a cold, suffocating silence. Suddenly, a fist shot straight up into the sky, its presence overwhelming. Aster emerged from the smoke, his eyes sharp and cold, yet full of determination. "Hey, start screaming!" He shouted again, his voice filled with excitement and authority. "Show some excitement, will you?" As if that was the cue, everyone immediately erupted in loud cheers. "That was amazing! Is he really a mage? What the hell made that fight so insane? I'm rich. Hey guys, and that's who he calls a commoner." A moment later, Damien burst out laughing, his voice full of excitement. "My friend." He was as happy as a child, his voice ringing with joy. "We won." Aster's lips curved into a smile, his gaze softening. "So from now on, stop sucking your thumb, all right?" Mixed within the crowd, a figure observed silently, their gaze cautious. He let out a small smirk, his face clearly showing his amusement. "So this is a real magic academy, yet they're already brawling like this." Suddenly, a sharp and stern shout rang out. How utterly pointless. A man with an authoritative air strode forward, his loud voice overpowering the space. Break it up, you kids!" He demanded loudly. "Who started a fight on the very first day of orientation, huh?" Watching the commotion from afar, Aster thought, "He's pointing fingers now. If we don't slip away quickly, we're all going to get caught. This is bad." Seeing the man was still looking for the culprits, he decided to make a quick escape. "But it's fine. I've been in plenty of situations like this before." However, his escape plan was immediately ruined when Damien cheerfully shouted, "It wasn't them! It was us over here! Aster could only helplessly accept his fate. "So it was you two. Yes, it was us." Meanwhile, on the ground, Hickster was still lying motionless. A short while later, the two of them were summoned by the man into a private room. Contrary to Aster's anxiety, Damien was extremely excited, his eyes sparkling. "Damien and Aster! Yes! The man lowered his voice, his tone stern but not overly harsh. "You've come to sincerely apologize, correct? If that's the case, I'll let it go this time without deducting any conduct points from either of you. It seems the other student wasn't seriously harmed. However," he warned, his brow furrowing and his gaze sharp, "from now on I'll be keeping a close eye on you two in this academy." Aster merely gave a slight nod, remaining silent. Some time passed, and soon it was noon. The two of them carefully opened the door and stepped inside. Aster breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, the magic orientation ceremony hasn't started yet. As the two walked through the corridor, a buzz of whispers immediately erupted around them. "Is that him?" With a physique like that, he actually beat his opponent. How can he even fight if he's from a line of mages? Despite Aster having warned him, Damien naively waved. "Everyone is looking at us. Damn it, now we're famous. I told you not to wave." After walking for a bit, Aster found their seats. Over there. Damien, however, was as cheerful and excited as ever. "It looks like they saved us seats, my friends. You're all so wonderful." "Perhaps." After that, the speeches began, and because of that, the headmaster spoke in a gentle tone. "And so our academy has passed down the teachings of the first headmaster and then..." However, the long speech was making Aster restless. But, man, this headmaster has some serious stamina. How can he stand and talk for so long?" When he glanced to his right, he realized Damien had fallen asleep at some point. Aster smiled helplessly at his friend's innocence. This young master. He then went to use Damien's own hand to wipe his mouth. "You can stop drooling now." But the next words immediately drew his attention. "Excuse me, headmaster, but it is time for you to depart. Is there something on his schedule more important than this magic orientation ceremony?" A man approached the headmaster and whispered something in his ear. After that, the headmaster gave a slight cough. He scratched his head and stammered. "My apologies, students. Something urgent has come up, so I must take my leave. I will have to end my speech here, but please let the ceremony continue." Finally, the headmaster waved the next person up. From the audience, a beautiful woman with red hair walked up. Jayla stood with her hands on her hips, looking down at the students. Suddenly, she barked, "Everyone, your attention over here!" The unfocused students all jumped in surprise. Even Damien was jolted awake from his slumber. For some reason, the stern teacher from before also flinched involuntarily. Jayla announced in a stern voice, "I am Jayla. I will be continuing the orientation ceremony which the headmaster had to cut short due to an unforeseen scheduling conflict." Then she looked towards Dahlia and said, "Now let us begin with the new student oath. First up, the representative for the magic major Dahlia de Diné." Yes, as Dahlia stepped forward, a wave of whispers rippled through the crowd. What, someone from the Diné clan needs to take the entrance exam? Or maybe her skills just aren't up to par. In the light streaming through the window, her platinum blonde hair sparkled, matching her cold expression. Think before you speak. That's the third daughter of the clan leader. If her skills were really that bad, would the Diné clan even let her take the exam? Aster watched silently from his seat. Dahlia de Diné. She now stood before Jayla. If the Deculan family was the #1 wizarding family on the eastern continent, then the Diné family was the one right behind them. Drawing from his memories, Aster quickly recalled everything about Dahlia. In a family that was always #2, like the Dinés, Dahlia was destined to grow powerful and become the family's representative witch in the future. Her abilities were nothing to scoff at. Moreover, back in his life as an assassin, he had received no small amount of help from her. Recalling his memories of her, Aster let out an involuntary chuckle. It's not quite right to say we were each other's saviors. It was more like a love-hate friendship. Oh well. Still, having Dahlia as a new student this year is a pleasant surprise. After Dahlia finished, Jayla announced, "Next, I invite the representative for the martial arts students Paula to the front." Paula stood and bowed respectfully. Yes, Aster had no memory of this person, so he simply observed. "The martial arts major, I don't remember them being mentioned. He's probably not from a major clan. After all, that guy from the Hickster or Hitzer family or whatever was nothing special. The great families must be pretty annoyed by this." Paula and Dahlia stood solemnly and began their oath. "With this, we conclude our oath." Once finished, they quickly returned to their seats. "Next, we will introduce the professors who will be in charge of the 172nd class. Will the professors please come forward? Our first professor." Suddenly, Dahlia glanced towards Aster. He tried to calm himself. What was that? Am I just imagining things? However, Dahlia made no move to look away. It seemed she was deliberately making eye contact with him. Aster chose to ignore it and looked away. Whatever, it's not important anymore. Just then, Dahlia tripped. She lost her balance and stumbled forward. But at that moment, Aster's attention was elsewhere. "That professor's name is Faroon, right?" He was waiting for the man to appear, but still hadn't seen him. "When is he going to come out?" Another professor was introduced, but it still wasn't him. Finally, Faroon appeared. "It's a pleasure to meet you all." He introduced himself with a rather gloomy face. "I am Faroon. I will be teaching basic magical philosophy." Aster observed him carefully. I expected a tense aura that he'd be similar to Lancey, but he's completely different in person. However, he reminded himself. But Lancey wears a mask too. In public, she also appears to be a kind and virtuous person just like this. I suppose I can't judge anyone that easily. Once everything had concluded, Jayla officially announced, "This concludes the introduction of the professors and brings our orientation ceremony to a close." Damien was still sleeping drowsily. "Will all students please follow the staff's instructions and proceed to your assigned rooms?" Aster had no choice but to shake him. "Hey, time to wake up! Huh, is it over?" Seeing him like that, Aster decided to tease him. "Nope. You got caught sleeping during the ceremony, so you've been expelled. We have to go home now." And yet Damien was just dumbfounded, believing it hook, line, and sinker. Immediately after, he let out a terrified scream. It wasn't until dusk began to fall. Carrying his suitcase, Aster sighed. Man, that Damien, to think he'd cry his eyes out over a little joke like that. After walking for a while, he finally found his room. "This should be it." Looking at the room number, he realized, so they put me on the top floor. Without hesitation, Aster pushed the door open. Inside the room was neatly arranged with 2 beds. This is a fine institution indeed. Not only that, but they had also carefully prepared the necessary supplies for the students. Are these daily necessities? The items provided to all students are identical. Aster took a small notebook from the box. Even though I don't want to, I'll use these for now, he thought, since even the smallest items can reveal one's status. I'll just buy my own things gradually. While he was getting settled, Aster realized someone else had entered. It turned out to be Paula. "So, he's my roommate. I heard his name is Paula. But why is he giving me such a dissatisfied look? Paula frowned and sighed. Let's just mind our own business and live quietly, okay? He coldly walked past. I don't care what you do. Aster didn't answer, just stared intently at her. Stay up as late as you like, but I hope we don't disturb each other. That most certainly includes talking from now on. His attitude, however, struck Paula as a provocation. Answer me what's with you so audacious. I just don't get who taught him to talk like that.